In this introduction video, you will learn how to prepare your scene so we can export it into an host render application. Preparing means giving your objects proper names, giving your materials proper names, removing not needed materials, etc. Then we will export everything as OBJ, import everything into Blender, develop kind of like a very basic environment, fix or set up some of the materials, add lights, etc., and then do actually few quite fun and explorative renderings. Save actually all those into files, and while doing all the stuff, you also get a brief crash course into Blender that gives you a good understanding about the overall process that includes bringing a 3D model from SketchUp over to Blender, then adding lights, materials, camera to it, and doing a rendering or renderings. Cool, no? Think so too. Okay, let's do it. So let's get started. Go ahead and please download the shared demo file. The link for the SketchUp file is inside the description of the video. It has the lampshade and a side stand included. Everything is nicely named, as you can see, and put into proper groups. That's perfect. And also I have all my materials cleaned up and named. So for example, this is lamp brass, and right here I have lamp white coat because the inside here is white. And the reason why you really want to clean up all the materials in your model and give them proper names is so that no matter what render engine you will use, Blender, Maya, Arnold, V-Ray, Enscape, when you modify the SketchUp materials, you can easily find them. So for example, this here is called wood gray veneer, and then wood white paint, because this is this white here in front. Okay, just a small, big, useful tip. Trust me, nothing is more frustrating than later when you see a long list of cryptic names. Okay, very good. We would like to export all this to Blender, and we will use the built-in Obj Mesh Exporter. Obj is a common format in the industry that will be used to import and export polygon models, like what we see here in SketchUp. And the beauty of the OBJ is also it includes materials and textures and whatnot. Okay, I will do one export. Don't actually follow what I do right now. We will redo this one more time. Okay, so I will just go to File, Export, 3D Model. Very good. Then we go to Desktop, give this a name, select OBJ as the format, go to Options. And here you would like to turn on Export Texture Maps because, for example, the veneer, that image texture we would like to export. Swap Y and Z, we want to turn off because Blender has the Z up and SketchUp has the Z up, but this one here is important. So the unit system should be in meters. Blender works internally with metrics. Meter is the standard unit, so we want to export our meshes to meters. Don't worry, when we work in Blender, we can actually set everything up to look in like inches or feet. Okay, very good. So, okay. Very good. And just click export. Takes a moment. There. And to Blender. Very good. So here, still just only watch because we will do this one more time. We go to File, Import, and Wavefront OBJ. I will navigate to where I have the file. There it is. This we want to Y forward and Z up. That is correct. Import. Cool. Middle mouse button, I can zoom in. The scroll wheel and the middle mouse button, I rotate around. Shift middle mouse button, I pan around. Cool. There's actually our piece. When I click it, you might notice it's just one one object. Okay, so what happened? When we exported it, the Obj exporter put all these objects, all the groups into, think about it like one group. And here is just one group. That is actually not necessarily a problem. If we want to use the exported model just to load it into a render environment, adjust the materials, add lights, hit render, then honestly, that's fine. Cool. If we would like to move things around, for example, the lights or the drawer or whatever, then we want to export those as individual pieces. So I will select the object, press X and delete, and then I will go back to SketchUp and I will redo this. Now we can do this together. So I will select the lamp. This is just the group I would like to export. File, export, options. And you see here I have this export only selection turned on. That's good. And then we can call this set and just light. Very good. Export. Nice. Now I will select the side stand, and actually not the side stand, but inside my group, I will select box and feet. And then go File, Export, 3D Model. And here now I will call this side stand. Yeah, okay. Export. Thank you. And then now I just click the drawer. You see only this group is selected. File, export. And yeah, I will call this drawer. And all these settings now they go with it. Very good. Okay, beautiful. Now I go back to Blender. I can zoom out with the scroll wheel. Then File, Import, Wavefront. Now I navigate to where all my stuff is. So here's the light. All this, as you can see, we set this one time up, then it keeps it. Import. There's my light. Very nice. Mid-century furniture. I drag this over, side set light. Cool. File, import. There is the side stand. And then file, import. And here is the drawer. Beautiful. Okay. This lamp moved around a little bit. Okay, let's move this back. Here we have move, rotate, and scale. This is actually move, rotate, scale all together. Click on move, and then there you see we have Z, Y, and X. So in SketchUp, we can move something around and then we press the arrow keys to lock it. Here we can simply lock this by dragging this along just a specific axis. Pretty cool. We could select the drawer, for example, move this out, or Control Z. By the way, Mac and PC, same command, Control Z, pretty cool. Undo. Okay, yeah. So you see, this is actually not very complicated to get everything over from SketchUp to Blender. So going back to SketchUp for a quick moment, I will jump forward backwards a little bit just to show you how similar actually these programs are. We can see here the material, the veneer on it, and the color. That's all pretty nice and good. And inside the material editor here, where we have the list of materials, here we have some of the basic, well, really crude things we can adjust. The size of the image texture, or, well, the color of the what should be brass. In SketchUp, basically, it only can put on an image, or we can define a color for an object, and that's kind of it. For example, when we go to metal, we have all these cool looking things here. Oh, look, this is reflective. Nope, never do this. This is kind of like in the 90s what we did. So we want to only define, for example, for metals, flat colors. That's good because in the render application, Blender, Enscape, whatever, we will override this. Okay, so let's go to Blender. So when we go into a 3D view, this object looks pretty flat. And where is the setting for the material stuff? Up here, you see 4 interesting spheres. Click the first one. So that's wireframe, shaded. Click the next one. Ah, look at that. That's actually material preview. And the last one, and that is then for rendering. Okay. For rendering, go to the camera and set Eevee to cycles. And the rest we can cover later. And then when we click our different objects here, you see that can be highlighted in the 3D view. Beautifully now, I see, works the same way like in SketchUp. Now, when I select the light, where can I see my materials? I will move this one up, then go down to this button here. That is where the materials are. You might struggle the first 2-3 minutes understanding what all these icons are, but once you understood what each one is for, it's very easy to navigate. So this is for the materials. And then here we have a list of all the 3 materials which are being used inside this geometry. Interestingly, there was still a front color somewhere in SketchUp. I don't know where it was, and it doesn't matter. So let's go to lamp brass. So that's actually this material, and lamp white coat. That is what we have here in the inside. So how can we modify actually these materials? And we see all these, kind of maybe at first intimidating sliders. Don't worry, this is actually very logical. Also here, we don't have to learn everything. We will just learn the basics so we understand what they're doing. So for example, in 3D rendering, we deal with color. When we talk about materials, the color, so the brass or the texture for the wood. We deal with reflectivity, how smooth is the surface, and how reflective it is. And if the surface is also rough, then it's kind of rough. So here we have specularity for the slider. So specular is a different term than reflective. And then here we have roughness. So is the surface maybe super reflective, but we sandblasted it. So think about it. You take glass, which is nice and reflective, and then we sandblast the surface. If you have paper, it has no reflectivity. It's polished chrome. Actually, then it's metallic. Then we have this slider. And for plastic, we have this slider. Since this should be brass, actually, let's bring this one up to there. Sorry, here. Very good. Cool. We have actually a white plastic piece inside. So here now we can go to the lamp white, and this should be specular. Cool. Let's select our side stand here. Here we have still somewhere this hidden mystery material, then the veneer and a white paint in the front. So here we do the same. Let's make this not rough. And we can keep this at this value right now. We will modify this over time. In here for the wood, let's make this rough and we keep this specular. If we set this high, when we have this material preview turned on, you can see actually there is a reflection going on. And when we turn the roughness on, there you can see how the reflection then gets blurry. Okay. Very good. Everything what we do here right now is not meant to give you a PhD in it. This is more an introduction into the mechanics, how Blender works and how 3D materials and lights in general work in rendering. Because this is the beauty about it. It is literally everywhere the same. It's not that they invent the wheel all the time over and over again. Very good. So we have actually everything set up. Let's do a basic rendering. So we click on this button here. And then it will render. Very good. For the rendering, go to this button here and then click this, turn this to 10, and then turn this denoise on. All good. And let's take a look what we have. Everything seems to be kind of like matte. Looks like it's we have a lot of fog. It's more actually that think about it, we're in a huge sphere that is dimly illuminated. Go to the world. This is where we have the world material. Color. Click, drag this one up. Oh, this is now really bright. So this is now, this sphere we're in is actually illuminating more light, and the strength we set to 0. Now we see nothing because we essentially turned the light off. Okay, very good. Cool. Now, because this is pitch black, it's very difficult to navigate. Let's turn off the rendering by going to shade it, or we can work here in the material preview. Very good. Go to add plane, and there we are. Now we have a plane. We would like to draw up a wall in the back. And before we do this, let's actually set everything to Imperial. So here's my scene setting. There's units. Then we can go to Imperial and we set this to inches. Thank you. Very nice. This line here, I would like to draw up a little bit. We will learn in this video also a little bit how, for example, Polygon Modeling works. And you will see that, again, it's pretty much the same like in SketchUp. Slightly different, but it's the same. We switch into edit mode. In SketchUp, you double click an object. Here we switch between object and edit mode. Then we can click this, shift click this, and then we can extrude this one up. For example, this goes this direction. And then you didn't really see what I did. I pressed the Z key 2 times. So let me do this again. I go to the select. So I select these 2 points. And now I would like to extrude them out. So extrude. And then I drag this line. You see how this actually extrudes it. The blue line is the Z direction, but it's along the ground. And when I press, so I only tap it 1 time, the Z key, and I'm still holding my mouse button, you see how this moves around freely. And when I press the Z key 1 more time, then this goes up. Okay. Down here, you see there's a small pop-up that wasn't there before. Click it, and now it tells us, oh, look at that. We actually extruded this one up. Cool. Let's say 3 feet or 80 inches. You see, you can actually enter the values now, kind of like how in SketchUp too, the number and then the unit system. Beautiful. Okay, this back face I would like to move a little bit closer to the side stand, and then this side I would like to move a little bit more to the right side. Up here you have something called point, edge, and face select. Select the face. Then go to here. So it's select tool. Select this face. See, this is now selected. If it's too difficult to see, you can also switch to the different display modes, there, go to move, and then we move this closer. Beautiful. Then we can go to edge, click, hold shift, click, and then we can drag this over a little bit. Can also go to a top view so I can see the grid nicely, so I know how much each one is. Currently, this is the display. This is 1 foot because we see feet here. When we zoom in more, now every thing is an inch. Okay, perfect. Let's not spend too much time there. Let's go back, and then we go back into object mode. So in literally every Polygon modeler, SketchUp included, because that's how the groups actually work, we jump between an object and an edit mode to manipulate the geometry to move the object around. We would like to add a light. That's actually where the fun stuff really starts. Okay, so just do me the favor, just do it, Shift S, and say cursor to world origin. You see there is, if I do not select anything, you will see it. There is an interesting icon here that's called the 3D cursor. This is where objects will be inserted. So go add, then light, and we just use a point light. Very good. Then with the move command, we can move this point light up, let's say to here and there. Pretty nice. If I now want to move this around while I do a rendering, I only have one view, and also to make, because the whole screen has to be rendered, to make the rendering go faster, I will do the following. I will go to here or there, right click and say split vertical, click, and there we are. Then here I can zoom in a little bit, move around. And then in this view, with my mouse wheel, I can zoom around here. I click render. And look at that. There is now light. Isn't that pretty cool? So when I move this light around, you can simulate lighting and how it works. It's actually why I really enjoy 3D rendering too. It's not necessarily to display something, but it is actually a really nice tool to visualize how something could look. So you see here, I'm placing actually the light inside that the light light lamp. Wait, cone, screen, shade, lampshade. That's it. I was I was waiting for lampshade. Tricky word. Okay, good. Every light has properties. So for example, here's now a lamp icon I can click. And it tells me it's a point light, 10 watts. It has a radius of 3. What does this mean? Well, think about like when you have a light bulb, it's not small. It has a volume. So this is kind of like what this simulates, the spherical body that emits light. When we make this 0.1 inch, it gets really tiny. If I bring this one down to here and say 3 inches, you see how at one point you start seeing a sphere show up. Now this is the size of the light body. Oh, 1 inch. You can also drag this one into the drawer. It's kind of cool. Yeah, there's just a light inside the drawer. Okay, very good. So the radius, for example, can be very useful if we want a light to go into a particular space. If we bring this back into the drawer, now the drawer has a particular height. If we make this, for example, 1 foot, and then you can see the light body is this big, and it just emits light to everywhere, inside and outside the drawer. Okay, goodie. We also have light color and whatnot. So let's have some more fun. So what can we do with the light? We can actually turn this into a spotlight. So you see now we move this up and down. There is a spotlight. We can rotate it. There you see how well it rotates, and with the spotlight, well, as you can see, it casts just a light from one point to a particular direction. When we rotate and move objects around, you see here this triangular piece. I click it. Here it tells me all the rotation information. I can overwrite and clean this up later by click into it and pressing 0 and enter there. When we have an area light, what's an area light? An area light is, think about a rectangular surface that emits simply light. It's nice and soft. It's basically what is used in every photo studio where they do product photography, portrait photography, but also for interior photography because it generates soft edges. We have here for also the size for the shape, and we can make this, for example, rectangle. We can make this, let's say, 2 feet. So you see it's a small light strip. It's kind of like an LED strip if you want to do it this way. Oh, talking about LED strip, let's do this. So we go to the top view, we zoom down, and then we say, okay, so this light for here we make this maybe 0.5 inch wide, and then for Y maybe 15. Very good. Then we would like to bring this over. See, the problem is when I zoom in, this actually, how can I say that? I'm touching this interface element. So be careful. What I will do is I will actually use here the slider, and just along here I can even move objects around X, Y, and Z too. I can rotate it 90 degrees, and I'm just paying attention to what I do here. How does this actually impact everything there? Now I can bring this one down a little bit along the X-axis. Sorry, I clicked the rotation again there. When you hold the shift key, the numbers go really soft. And here a line goes down. That is actually for the light orientation. No. Yep, why there? Let's rotate it. So now the LED shines against the wall. Pretty cool, no? Yeah. It's actually really strong. Maybe what about 1 watt or 2 watts? What about 10 watts? Yeah. Okay. When we select this wall, then go into edit mode, select the face, select this face, and bring this further in. So we just have a tiny gap there. Now we can see how this actually changes the way how the light can work. Pretty cool, huh? Yeah. Okay. Let's do the following. We will delete this light. Very good. For the moment, we can turn off the rendering. We select actually here this object. We go into edit mode. We go to edge select, select this, press X, and then we say delete vertices. This is all gone. Then we go to face select, select this, and then go to extrude and extrude this one up. It's kind of like the push and pull in SketchUp. Now this is a huge box. Select Tools, Front Face, X, and Delete Face. So we open this up. Really nice. Cool. Okay. Now here, sometimes what really makes sense is in one view we are in wireframe, and then one view we do the rendering. I will center my view here a little bit. Then I will leave edit mode, go into object mode. Very nice. And then I will go add a light, a point, actually. Bring this point to here. Go to a side view, move this one up, bring this over. There we are. Make this a little bit smaller, maybe 1 inch, half an inch. Okay, so there's a nice gap. I want this light to be behind. So you see how I moved it in that view. Very good. So let's turn on rendering. Isn't it cool how this actually looks? And we can just rotate our view. Let's say there should be some sort of an LED. We can also give this a color. There. You can click on this and this. Then actually it centers the view. There. Nice, stylish. Evening rendering. It's kind of like actually how my office looks like. Because I have this furniture piece, the lamp not necessarily in this room, but I use LED built into the furniture to illuminate the furniture or the room this way. Really nice. But you see how quickly you can develop something that's pretty cool just by using the light. So we are reaching actually the end of this introduction exercise. We would need to add a camera. Okay, so let's stop the rendering here. We go into 3D view, then we go add and camera. This is, for example, the part that I find is the most frustrating in SketchUp, because SketchUp doesn't have cameras. SketchUp has scenes, and with the scenes, basically, it takes a snapshot from where you're inside the space and how do you look at something, which is similar like a camera, but it's more like capturing a view, but it's not a camera, period. You will see why. So we move this camera backwards. You see the camera is rotated really crazy. Let's set this rotation to 0. Okay, then it looks down. This we set to 0. We set this to 0. Aha, okay. So now the camera nicely looks straight down, which is, well, for us, not really useful. Let's let's go rotate this one 90 degrees. Okay, because now the camera is horizontal. To look through the camera, here, click camera. And then zip, we can move this one up. We can move this one back. This is a rectangular shape. We want this to be square. This is actually representing the image to be rendered. So here we go 500 by 500. We make it small to render fast. Yeah, and then I can center this as needed. There we are. Beautiful. Fun fact, actually, for those who saw and my other tutorials, I talk about how to do interior photography and why you should never really look down, but you should only look horizontally forward. Because if you look down, if we do this for a moment, and I rotate y-axis, nope. Oh yeah, the z-axis, sorry, x-axis. There you can see how the vertical lines start to tilt. Terrible. If I want this image to go down, I can use a tilt shift. And you see actually how I'm looking more down onto the object, but I'm actually looking straight forward. So that's also another reason why in SketchUp you can't do these things. Anyway, I'm getting off track. Let's keep this nice and brief. Very good. I'm centering everything a little bit. Very nice. Let's turn on this rendering. Yeah, this looks actually pretty cool. It's nice and cold. The light is maybe a tick too strong. What about with 2 or 1? It's actually very weak. Let's go back to 10. What about when we set this to 500? It is really bright. Now it's overexposing it. So we have to be mindful of the values here. 10 is kind of cool. Few more settings. Let's go to rendering. All this here, yeah, we can keep. Very good. Color management. For those who do a lot of photography on your phone and you add color filters and all this stuff, that's kind of like color management. And we can do somewhat something similar here. Let's make this a more high contrast, very high contrast, but kind of like medium high contrast. That looks good. Okay, very nice. Let's do a rendering. I will stop this, go to render and render image. And then actually it will start working on it. And I have something set here to 4000. This is actually an alt setting. So I press escape to stop the rendering process. And for this exercise, we will go to here, the render settings, and set this max sample to, let's say, yeah, 100. This is fine. What does this actually mean, sampling? Think about it when the software has to render the environment. They need to refine and refine and refine till it's nice and clean. And this basically defines for how long should you try to refine it. There's 100, and then bang, the denoiser kicks in. You notice actually it was kind of noisy, grainy, and then out of a sudden it became kind of like clean. So that was the denoiser. So we don't render it out till this noise is really gone. We simply filter it out. Let's save this image. Save as PNG is actually good. We really don't want to work with JPEG. And then we can call this one mid-century furniture set blue LED. For example, save as. Very good. Cool. So back to the rendering in the viewport. What I would like to do to modify the scene, show you how small changes of the light really can have a huge impact on setting the mood of a room. The light body is kind of like nearly on the top of my drawer here. Not drawer, side stand. And it casts a lot of kind of like illumination patterns onto the sides. And interestingly, also a shadow of the lampshade onto the ceiling. If we want this, no, okay. But what happens when we move this just a little bit down? Maybe to the midpoint. That's actually pretty cool too. You see now we have just a light rim along the wall. And if we move this even further down, pay attention to what happens to the inside of our side stand. It gets actually more light. Or then now here, the lamp basically can illuminate this whole area here. Now this actually looks quite interesting. The reason why I'm pointing this out is just so you also understand how tiny adjustments can really be very effective in adjusting the way how an environment is illuminated, how I'm going to perceive or read this environment. Now here, if I bring this one just back to here, now I can I can do a rendering of this. Because no, I really actually pay attention a lot to kind of like what's in front of the slide. I can't really understand everything that much. I can maybe move this a little bit back, but then you can see how everything is super illuminated. This is actually also not too bad. Now you see there's more distance between the side stand and the light, and this kind of look kind of like looks a piece of art already. It's actually quite cool. So let's do a quick rendering of that, and this only takes a brief moment. There we are, and then we can actually do a save as, and here is the blue LED, and I will call this one actually 2. Very good. And I go to slot 2. See, slot 2 is actually empty. And I will show you what this slot is for. It's actually quite useful. And I bring this one back. Kind of like to there. Oh, or even closer. There. And then this one here, I just move down till, yeah, I can see actually this bottom down there. Very good. And let's do a rendering of that. And then with the slots here, you see I can switch between various elements. And now in this rendering here for version 2, this is kind of bright. I start to see a little bit of light right in front. I just have this thin line that goes around. So it's actually quite interesting. We can just go save as, and we call this one, for example, version 3. And then we have various renderings. For example, we could compare and say, hey, which one actually do I really like? We might like this when we see it, but if we then take a look at this and compare this to other images, we might actually see something that works better. Okay, next. Now, we're going to add another light, and I do not want this point light to show up anymore. So yeah, I click these elements here. This means it doesn't show up, and this doesn't show up even in the rendering. Shift A, or we go to add and light. Now we go with a point light, and this point light we bring up, and then here we will try to put this into the cone here. There we are. Very good. This might be kind of like there. You see the size is a tick too big. So 1 inch, 2 inch. Very good. Z, I press Z actually in this view, then I get this pie menu. You can use this if you want, or you press this. And on there you see it does actually make a rendering. Kind of like with the light that comes out of the light shade. And the light bounces off, so you understand how the render actually works. And it bounces off the floor, goes onto the wall, goes onto the ceiling, comes back down. That's kind of like the way how this works. Okay, very good. So we can maybe adjust. Let's say we want to make this a nice, warm, iridescent, no, not incandescent light. We can change this a little bit by adjusting a color. Obviously, this is way too much LED light. It's kind of like the Philips Hue, but a little bit of a yellow we can add. And this really will colorize the light sufficiently already. Very good. Let's make another rendering. And takes a moment. And there we are. Ta-da! You see now, actually, because the light comes from the top, hey, look at that. We can see there is something on it. There's a wood texture. Pretty cool. Okay. And then again, save as, and maybe we can call this one, let's say yellow lamp light. Also here, we can hide all this. Now we add one last light. Add light and area. Area again is this very soft light. I will bring this a little bit further away so you can see plus minus where it is. This is why I like working in a shaded, in a wireframe mode, because this is very easy to see into the environment. 24 inches, nice and big, very good. You see here, this says global, and if I click on it, it says local. If I go to rotate and rotate this and go back to this, you see how this is rotated, because this is now the local orientation of this object. Or here, there, Y. Very good. So let's go back to the camera, then turn on the rendering. I can go to the top view and, for example, move this one out or move this closer. Move this to here. And you see how now this actually shines light onto the front of the piece. And with this yellow dot, I can move this around and put it onto an object. There, then actually it will automatically rotate the light. There. Cool. Now actually it shoots the light from this point down onto the object. And when we zoom in, we get really nice soft shadows in the background. When we zoom in more, then we can even see all the wood detail. Very good. Okay, also here, let's do one quick rendering. It's getting late. We did actually a good test run, bringing everything over, adjusting a few materials, making a very impressive room model, and then had some fun with some lights. This is sufficient for our first steps. Otherwise, I'm going to continue talking for hours, and we don't want that. So let's say here we call this area light, because that's basically what it is. Okay, that's it. I hope you enjoyed this initial introduction into how we can set up an environment in Blender. I know this is the first video is always nerve-wracking because there's so much new. Well, we pretty much covered literally a lot of the stuff, how to add a light, how to move it around, how to adjust it, light sizes, light color, the power, how to move objects around, select the colors, and also where are the similarities to how Blender works compared to SketchUp. So you see, internally, they're all the same. They're just different interfaces. Okay, enough of me for tonight. Sleep well. See you tomorrow. And hello there. Whoopsie. I know I have a good excuse. It is pretty late, but I forgot to talk about how do we save stuff. So please do this. Go to external data. We treat the blend file exactly the same way how SketchUp works, with the images being copied into the blend file. So we go external data, pack resources. Here it tells you 3 images were packed. And then we go file and then say save as, and then wherever you would like to save it. And I call this mid-century furniture set rendering. Click here. Compress is turned on. Very good. And save. Perfect. When we take a look at the desktop, now we have actually our rendered file. Here's our raw SketchUp file. We have here our 3 renderings, and here are a lot of files. These are the mesh models, including, for example, the textures which are there. So all this actually now we can delete, and all this we put into a new folder. Done. Perfect.